I'm a lifelong Southerner, married to an Indian man who grew up in South Africa during apartheid, and I am fiercely proud of both. If you don't like that, well, bless your heart. I'm Sheryl Parbhoo, and this is Southern Life, Indian Wife. Welcome to Southern Life, Indian Wife. I have got fellow Atlanta area author Beth Hermes with me today. And I wanted to just do a little bit of an introduction about her. She is totally an overachiever when it comes to writing. I feel so inferior.
No, not at all.
So she's been a professional writer for over 30 years, and she teaches creative writing and business writing workshops to adults and also to kids.
Yes.
And a prolific author of a spiritual fantasy fiction series called The Lightbearers.
Yep.
How many books are you into with that series?
6 have been published. The seventh is in progress right now. And I was hoping it would be out this year, but it'll probably be early 2020.
Yeah. And I've written 1.
It's okay.
Well, you're my inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so Beth does a million other things too in the writing community, but I'm just not going to name them because it also makes me feel inferior.
No, not at all. I mean, your book has done wonders and it's a beautifully written book. So you should be very proud of it.
Thank you. I wanted to talk with you today basically about what it's like to be a writer and teaching writing.
Yes.
And learning writing as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I was always a writer. I always kept a journal,
Right.
but I didn't really start writing seriously until I was about 37.
Okay.
Taking workshops and getting into it and kind of giving myself permission
Right.
to be a writer.
Yeah.
And I know that you work with people a lot and helping them to give themselves permission.
I do. But, it's funny when you say that. I gave myself permission to write, but if you've done Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way or heard about it at all, she talks about shadow artists. And I was one of those for a very, very long time. I've been a professional writer my entire adult career, but I was a journalist and a PR director for different companies and nonprofits. So I was the shadow artist. I always had books in me, and I knew that, but I was always afraid because I thought you had to be someone else or do something else to get to the point where you were allowed to write books.
Right.
And so I was writing for other people. I was writing for businesses. I was writing for newspapers and magazines, and it felt safe.
Right.
So I was, it was 2008 when I started writing my first book. I'd been journaling like you for my whole entire life, but it was the first time I had written a book, and I felt this freedom that came from that. And I had some opportunities that opened up from that. I guess when you do something that's right for you, finally, your spirit says, that's it. And then all of a sudden other things come up. And that's when all of this started happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because, like what you said, you feel like you have to have done something else in order to be able to write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always felt like that. I'm like, who's going to want to read anything that I write?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I started a blog.
Okay.
And that sort of gave me permission because I found out, there's a lot of people out there that want to hear what I have to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And it's gratifying to be able to to have a conversation. And I think that's what all communication is, whether it's written or verbal. It's communication.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell a story and people react to it. And then there's this interaction, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So do you have any funny stories about interactions with people here in the South coming down here? Does that inspire any of your writing?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it does. Yes. Because there's always that, you put yourself, you write what you know, and you put part of yourself into everything that you write. And you hear these things all the time. And when you start writing, you realize, oh my goodness, it wasn't what I thought it was. When I first moved here, and she wound up being my best friend here in Georgia. She was my maid of honor in my wedding. But when I first met her was my first day in my history class. We moved here when I was 15. And so I was in high school, and I grew up in New York, and we speak very differently up there.
Yeah.
And so this girl leaned over and she said, "Excuse me, can I borrow a pen?" And I thought that was a really strange request for the beginning of a history class.
Because she wanted a pin?
She wanted a pin. And so I said, sure. And I had a safety pin on one of my keychains. And I handed it to her and she looked at me really strange and she says, no, a pin. And she started moving her hand and she said, like what you write with. And I said, write with.
Right
so
with, yeah.
She was born in Alpharetta. And I said, oh, a pen.
The correct way of saying
me
it.
and my very New York way of saying, oh, a pen.
Yeah.
And so we had a good laugh about it. And then she was in my PE class and one of the girls said, oh, you need to meet this girl. She's got a horse too, because I had a horse. And so this girl came over and she said, yeah, we already met. I borrowed a pen from her and she really over enunciated the E.
That's funny.
So that's one of my funniest ones. And then of course, I always had people when I would come back from New York, your accent gets thicker,
Mm-hmm.
and so they'd say, oh, did you have coffee while you were up there? So I said, well, I wasn't always that bad, but yeah.
Yeah. When you told me that you're from Long Island, I had known you for quite a while and it kind of shocked me because you're not scary when you talk.
I went to journalism school in Auburn, Alabama, and they beat it out of us.
I guess
so. They told us we had to sound like we were from nowhere so that we could blend in with whoever we interviewed.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My son is in theater school in New York and he's learning that basic, just very generic American accent, so that everybody can understand and relate.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for him coming from the South, that's kind of hard. That's funny. Yeah. The pin thing, that reminds me when I moved to North Carolina as a kid, even though I was Southern, there's different twangs to different Southern accents. And people called their dads their diddies.
Whoa.
And I was like, what the heck is a diddy? Oh, it's your dad.
Yes,
okay.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So there's language barriers everywhere.
And mine was my father.
Your father. Yeah. Gonna sleep with the fishes.
Exactly.
So when you moved down here, did you feel like an outsider?
Oh, gosh, yes. In 1981, I went to Milton High School in Alpharetta.
Okay.
And Alpharetta was not even close to what it is today. Now it's very upscale and lots of, it's the desired place to live. And back then, the real estate agent looked at my parents and said, why do you want to live there? And
was it the Boondocks?
It was the Boondocks. And Milton High School was a 60 or 70-year-old conglomeration of buildings. They had just put a new one in because of the growth. But we still had hallways in old buildings that had been there since the beginning of time. And you'd walk down the hallway and the lockers would lean in when you were walking on the wooden floors.
Holy crap.
It was crazy. So yeah, that was interesting. But the culture shock of it was that there were a lot of us moving in. Like I was one of, and I still am friends with most of these people today, about 20 people who moved in that school year. I just moved in November or October, and they moved in, no, it was November, and they moved in the beginning of the school year. So they started school there, and I started my 11th or 10th grade year up in New York and then moved down here in the middle. And so I met these people and we bonded because we were from somewhere else. Like there was a girl from Florida and there was a girl from Washington State. And so, all these people who came from somewhere else, we just kind of got to know each other and became very close.
Yeah. All the outsiders.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of stuck together. Yeah. And I think for me and probably for you being a writer,
yes,
we've got that community.
Oh yeah. And I think being the outsider is almost a requirement for being a writer because you observe and you learn and the things that you experience make for great storytelling.
Yes. Yeah. My favorite little, meme that I found online, of course, because I love the little quotes and memes is, you better be careful what you do because you might end up in my novel.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, I've seen that one. And then I also have one of my students gave me a little sign that I have on my desk. It's actually at the entrance to my office. And it says, don't piss me off or I'll kill you in my book.
Hey, I think I like that one better.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So
yeah,
like this is like, don't mess with me because I'll pick up your bad traits and I'll make them kill you.
Heck yeah. Yeah. There was this one female person that I know of who is in my memoir. And of course she's heavily disguised, but all of her little catty actions and attitudes, man, I put that into that book. I'm making sure hopefully she won't recognize herself and sue me, but
well, she
it's
won't,
in there.
because the people who recognize themselves by their bad traits never want to claim that it's really them.
Oh, that's true.
So yeah,
Excellent.
don't worry about that.
Excellent. Yeah. So, this writing community, like you said, we have to be outsiders. And I think it makes us a little bit weird, don't you think? And I don't know about you, but I have a lot of regular suburban mom friends, the ones that play tennis, the PTA, just regular people, work regular jobs.
Right.
And my writing life is completely separate from theirs.
Yes.
And it's kind of sad because I want to be able to share that with everybody, but it's also my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that beautiful thing that bonds us writers together too.
Absolutely. And I think that it's good to keep those things separate, because you're outside your writing world friends.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they provide fodder for your stories.
Heck yeah.
But second, they keep you grounded, I think. Writers, we tend to sail off of the earth a little bit with our stories. They kind of make us fly away, and we can get lost in that. And our friends who are outside of that really keep us real, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a horseback rider, so I've got my barn family. And if you are, think you are lost in the world when you're doing writing, any kind of writing, I don't care if it's business or fun. They should all be fun. But anyway, when I go to the horse farm, you have to be present. You have to be there. So in my writing world, my brain goes off to wherever it wants to. And when I'm on my horse, I have to be right there all the time. And my friends who are there, we're very close. We're like family out there, and they really do. All of us kind of have this. We're in the moment, and that's, I think, a very good thing for a writer to have, is something that brings you to the moment, because we're not usually there.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, because I get lost in writing, and I have
driving down the road, and you go, "Oh crud! How did I get here? I was somewhere else."
And I've got this whole story working in the back of my mind, and wait, I just pulled into the Chick-fil-A parking lot.
Right.
Why? What the hell am I doing?
Exactly. Yeah. I hope I didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, exactly. But if I did, it's going in the book.
That's right. Things that happen in here may appear real, but it's just a coincidence.
There you go.
Your disclaimer has to go in there.
That's true. So, I know we've kind of, connected with our writing, who we are, but you help people who are not writers, but want to become writers.
Yes.
Learn that process.
Right.
But what I'm curious about is the people that you teach, and I know you teach different things. What is it that they are wanting to get out of their writing?
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that you ask them right away?
Sometimes I ask what brings them to class. We usually do an icebreaker in the very first class, and I did a boot camp last night, and we always have an icebreaker at the beginning of boot camp, because I want people to feel connected and safe to everybody in the group. So one of the last questions of the 5 or 6 that I asked them at the beginning is, what brought you here? And a lot of people, it's funny, no matter what age they are, want to leave something behind, because there's this sense of immortality that comes with writing down a story, whether it's a true story or not. You get that ISBN number in the Library of Congress, and you're alive forever.
Yeah.
So there's that feeling of immortality. A lot of people like that. Some people just want to write their stories down so that they're not forgotten. And they want to leave it to their kids and grandkids. And that's as far as they want to go with it. And other people have been in jobs, perhaps, because I teach a lot of active adults. They're either retired or close to retirement. And I get a lot of people from technical fields. You'd be amazed at how many CPAs and all that I've had in these classes, and technical field people. Like I have had a couple of people who worked with NASA and aerospace industry.
Wow.
And they come in because they've always had to follow strict rules and guidelines. And when they do reports, they're very technical and very dictated by what the industry says they have to do. And when they come to my classes, they have all these ideas, and they're like in a box. They've got these little blinders on. They're walking through this very narrow path. And when we show them the light in there, that they can go wherever they want, a lot of times they just are off the chain after that. And it's fun to hear what they're able to write, and the joy in their faces and their demeanors is really fulfilling.
Yeah, that's interesting to me, because I don't think I've ever met anybody with that sort of scientific-y brain that reads or for pleasure or wants to write. And maybe it's just because they haven't been given that opportunity
That's exactly it.
to let loose.
Yeah. And I think too, now we're raising hopefully kids who are a little bit more well-rounded. Back when you and I were in school, and even before when our parents were in school, I think that you were taught you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you choose one and you focus on that and do it well.
Right.
And now I think we're raising at least my kids where they have a skill and then they have something that they do for pleasure as well, and maybe multiple things. And so I think that's what the benefit is of teaching active adults, is that they're learning that they don't have to specialize in one thing. They can do things for pleasure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you ever run into adults that are just, they want to write that great American novel? They've always wanted to do it. They've had it burning inside them.
Yep.
Yeah. And how do you coax that out of them?
Well, I let them know that, because a lot of times what happens with those folks, it's been brimming inside their heads for so many years, and they start writing it and they peter out. Usually it's by chapter 3, which is the weirdest thing. They get chapter 1 is like out of the gate. This is awesome. They're introducing, the characters are engaging and everything else. The setting is beautiful. Chapter 2, they introduce a problem. Chapter 3, what do I do from here? Yeah. And so a lot of them are thrilled that they got 3 chapters out of this story that's been living with them their entire adult lives. But one of the exercises that we go through is write down all the problems that you can throw at them. And they're like, well, they have this one problem. And I'm like, no, our job as writers is to be as cruel to our characters as we possibly can. Writers want everything resolved. I mean, readers want everything resolved. Writers want to throw every problem they can. Right. And so, write down all the problems. They don't have to be enormous problems. Have the big overarching problem, or maybe 2 or 3 of those, and then have little ones in between that they completely fail at, so that we keep interest in the story and we feel connected, because as human beings, we're fallible. We're not perfect. So why do we expect the characters in our books to be? Right.
And I think for me and most of the people that I know that read fiction, that just absolutely love fiction, is you want to read about people that are more screwed up than you.
Exactly.
It's like watching a train wreck. Yeah. And sometimes you want to see them get better. And sometimes it's kind of satisfying to see that, they had a development in their character, but they're still in a tough spot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
my friend, the complete hot mess,
Yeah, exactly. It's like watching a reality show. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that, of course, we authors know is that you have to read voraciously to be a good writer. So is there a reading list that you give your students?
I don't. Well, I say that, but I have books that I really enjoy and I recommend, and, just that they read or whatever. And I just mention them off the cuff. I don't write things down. I don't have a reading list. But one of my students last spring, who's taken, I think, 6 classes with me, has kept a list. So she has what she calls Beth's reading list, and she put it together, and she's been working her way through it. Okay. And so she came back at the end of last semester and she said, well, what else do you recommend that I read? And I said, well, there's this and this. She goes, no, I've read those already. And she goes, I've been reading Beth's reading list. And I went, oh, cool. Excellent. So it made me happy that, I just throw things out because they inspire me. And my big thing is I try to read a mixture of fiction and nonfiction, because I think when you read fiction exclusively, it's great to read about characters and everything else, but it's like the horseback riding. I have to have that foot back in reality again to ground me so that I can get on to the next thing. Right. And she's read both. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. So, one of the questions that you asked when you said this over previously is, some of the things that I recommend. I absolutely love Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series. I think that she does excellent research. Her books are not for the lighthearted reader. They are very, very heavy. They go to dark places. And you talk about just torturing characters. These poor characters have been tortured for, between the time travel, hundreds of years. But they're wonderful because the relationships stay strong. And I think that's what I love about the story. One of my favorite books, and I'm thrilled, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I can't wait to, is The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. Oh, yeah. And one of the reasons that I love and recommend that book to so many people is because all fiction is about the human condition. And this book is told entirely from the point of view of a dog. But it's the human condition, and it's amazing, and it's done so well. And I love it. And everybody I've ever recommended that book to reads it, and they get to the end and they said, you should have told me that it was a cry fest. And I said, I can't tell you that because then you wouldn't read it. But it's an excellent human condition study.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Love
to know.
that book. And then right now I'm reading because I've so many people when I get a lot of folks who tell me you should read this, and I have this motto that says don't should on me. But when it comes to reading, there are certain people I trust. And several people have told me to read the Discovery of Witches series, Deborah Harkness.
Okay.
And so I've been reading that over the summer, and I'm on the last in the trilogy right now. And she's really good too, because like me, she's interested in kind of the supernatural and explaining things through mythology and all that. And I'm enjoying the history, the research that she's done in history about all of this. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love to read books that are very tragic.
Yeah.
And they make me feel and they make me cry.
Yes.
And I guess maybe it's because I've had a lot of that in my life, but not nearly.
So what's your
bad.
favorite?
Well, right now I'm reading La Rose by Louise Eldridge.
Okay.
Oh, holy crap. I don't want to give any spoilers, but man, if you've got kids,
really,
that's a tough book. I guess I can talk about how it starts. It starts where, there's two families, two half sisters who live close together. They both have children, and one of the husbands accidentally shoots and kills one of the other family's 5-year-old son.
I heard about this the other day. Yeah. So, okay. That's funny. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And the writing is amazing. And
cool.
Yeah. I stayed up till about 2 a.m. last night reading.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But one of the beautiful things about reading, especially while you're writing, because like right now, that I'm finishing my memoir. I go through books, and I'm not plagiarizing by any means, but I go through and go, wow, that's how this author described this body language, what I've been trying to get to.
Yep.
And it helps to stir, get your wheels turning a little bit.
That's one of the things that my writing students ask me is, I don't read a whole lot. What do you recommend? And I'm like, start with the little stories in Reader's Digest magazine because they're short. Read something, read anything.
Yeah.
Because it's not, we all know how to write. We know the mechanics of writing. We were taught everything from elementary school on, but I think in order to learn the craft of writing, you have to understand exactly what you just said, how other people approach. Why do we get so connected to this character?
Right.
Why do we feel like we are in this location? There's a gift that comes with that. And you have to learn that through the storytelling process. And the way that you do that is you learn as an apprentice. And we are lucky because we don't have to hang out with somebody else and ask questions over their shoulder. We read what they've already written and go, oh yeah.
Yeah. Have you recommended Stephen King's on writing?
Gosh. I've taught that class 7 times.
Wow.
And at different locations, and several people have taken it over and over again. And that is one that I recommend people have on their bookshelves if they even think that they want to be a writer.
Yes.
Because he didn't come by it easily. He started out I say damaged, but he had a really difficult childhood and, with health problems and family problems and everything else. And then he explains how he used that and the lucky break that he got. And I don't think people realize how many lucky breaks writers have to have in order to become a household name.
Yeah.
We're lucky. I mean, I feel grateful that I have the reading community that I have for my books. It's nothing compared to, somebody who is internationally known.
Right.
And whether I get that opportunity at some point or not, I have a community that I've built up that is very loyal to the books that I have, that I've offered, and they are always excited when I've got something else to come out. So, I think that we have to redefine what a lucky break is,
right.
And we're not going to be Stephen King.
Right. Very few people are going to be Stephen King.
And I love the fact that his book points that out, that, if you want to write for crying out loud.
Right.
And his one of my favorite quotes by him is somebody asked him, how do you write? And he says, 1 word at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't become a writer to make $1 million, because if that's your reason for saying, I'm going to write a book, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Do not quit your day job.
Yeah.
The chances of becoming Stephen King are just pretty much nothing.
And you have to love writing. And if you have dollar signs in your eyes, you're going to stray away from what the story is.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Can we make a career of it? Sure. But we're not going to be living in a mansion. So that's one of the things that a prompt that I give to my writing students is, describe a day in the life after you've published. And they're like, I have a house on the beach and I've got this kind of car. And I'm like, okay, so you've won the lottery and published a book.
Right, exactly. Maybe that's how you were able to take the time to finish that book.
So it's funny trying to set expectations. And that's another thing. I don't want to ever dissuade someone from writing, but I do like people to write for the right reasons.
Yes, absolutely.
Write for the correct reasons.
Yeah, right. We are older. We grew up in a generation where, we did learn writing a certain way. It was structured. We had to read the classics when we were in high school. And it was just a very regimented way of learning. And we didn't have the internet. Right. We didn't have smartphones. And when I was a kid, I was kind of the outcast and kind of antisocial. So I would lay on the couch and read all weekend long.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned so much. And of course, that sinks in. And that's what makes a person become a writer, I think. You teach kids now.
Yes.
Is it different? I see differences in my kids.
Yeah.
So what is it like to teach kids of this generation?
I'm glad you asked that. And I gave it a lot of thought because I looked over the questions yesterday and was able to sleep on them. And, I'm lucky because I'm not in a classroom with kids 5 days a week throughout the school year. I get them for a week during summer camp.
Okay.
And so that's a little bit different. They are there. Most of them want to be there. They asked for the writing camp. I've heard from a couple of my students that their parents punished them because they failed English and they stuck them in there. And I was like, thanks for that.
Wow.
But what's great is that they leave loving what we did in there and appreciating what goes into writing and therefore reading, I think. In fact, one kid said, I'm not going to tell my mom I liked this because I want to come back next year and I want her to punish me again. I was
how funny. That's awesome.
Yeah. But they do write about video games. Like I had a couple of kids this year who I do get some learning disabled kids in the camps. And they are really into the video games and all that. So they write about the video game characters a lot of times. And they make up scenarios, which is great because if you look at it, a video game is truly somebody has written down a script for that whole game.
Right.
And it's all these variables in there. So these kids are learning storytelling, but just in a different platform. Maybe their brain isn't wired for sitting down and reading a long book. But they're definitely learning, one action versus the next. So that was an interesting thing to have a couple of kids do that this summer. But these children are really well read and very well informed.
Really?
I have, I teach from 4th grade up through senior and high school through the summer camps. And these kids, the reading lists that they have just for fun, this is not even what's assigned in school, blows my mind.
Wow.
So they're very well read. They've read the classics. We could discuss the classics, which just thrilled me beyond belief. Classics for elementary schoolers is different than classics for high schoolers. And then they've told me about books. I actually put a reading list on the board based on their recommendations this summer for my middle school class.
Wow.
And the parents came in and they said, what's that? Are those books you recommend? And I said, no, these are the ones these kids have read and recommended that I'm putting on my reading list. And they went, oh, okay.
That's incredible.
So that was pretty cool.
That's eye-opening to me because my experience has not been that way with kids.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the budding writer, somebody that comes into your classroom or somebody that just, sends you an email, finding your email address online or, somebody in the grocery store that says, I've always wanted to write a book? Because don't you find when you tell somebody that you're an author, either, I've always wanted to write a book. Let me tell you my story.
Yes.
Or how can I get published? Can you help me get published?
Right.
But what would you tell somebody that's just at the point that, they want to start writing, they don't know what to do?
Any ask tips? Them what they read. And if they've been jotting down story ideas. A lot of times it's funny because closet writer wannabes have notebooks full of ideas, maybe a couple of paragraphs or just titles or something like that. And that's a great treasure trove. So I encourage people, don't ever throw that stuff away. Yes, we're hoarders too. But I think that's important, is to keep those things at close hand and refer to those and try to pick up the veins of the story and, keep their eyes open now for story ideas. It depends too on what they want to write. If they want to write a novel, look at what they like to read now. What's on their reading list right now? What are the books that they most enjoy? What are the ones that influence them? Because I've found that when you write, a lot of times if you look at what you have read, that's what you're going to be good at writing too, because you're familiar with that genre.
Absolutely.
If you read across the board, that's even better, because if you choose a genre, and you don't have to stick with a genre anymore. It's not like if you start out with, horror fiction, you've got to write horror fiction for your whole entire life, like it used to be. So that people can kind of change lanes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more variety you have in your reading list, the better writer you become, because you have examples from all different genres.
I agree with that, because I think it becomes who you are. It soaks in. It's like you take it in by osmosis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you are a part of every character you've ever written, then you are also writing a part of every character you've ever read, because they become a part of you.
Yes.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always tell people is, if you want to start writing, you write for yourself and you write what you know. Because if you try to write like your favorite author, it's going to come out like crap.
One of my favorite prompts is I have people choose a book off the shelves, and I tell them, turn to page 88 and count down 7 lines. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they will. And I'll say, whatever that line is, write that line. Don't write anything before it. Don't write anything after it. I don't care if it's in the middle of a sentence.
Uh-huh.
I don't want you to be familiar with the book. Choose the book by its cover. And they will pick up there, and then I'll have them close the book. And for 10 minutes, we'll write just from that line.
Oh, I love that. I love those kind of prompts.
And so it's really cool, because they write someone else that maybe is someone they've heard of, maybe someone they haven't heard of. And that person is now published in a book. So they're copying this one line, but then the ideas become their own. And I think that's the whole idea of becoming a writer, is that you're influenced by everyone you've ever met, everyone you've ever read. All of that influences your writing.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to it, you're in a room with a pen and paper or a computer, and the words and the thoughts and the ideas all become your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And so you write books about dragons.
Yes, I do.
So how does that fit into this writing what you know and your characters being a part of you? I've been very curious about that, because you don't look like a dragon.
I don't. Oh, darn. I'm hiding my wings really well today. My sharp teeth. No, I think that what it is that the archetype of the dragon is more, because people say, I feel like I'm powerless. Well, no, none of us are powerless. And I think what the archetype of the dragon is, and what's trying to be said in this book, because the women in my books, the characters in my books, they're people. They're not characters. They get very angry when I call them characters. But they are real people that you would meet unassuming on the street. Your state representative, your accountant, the coffee shop person, they're all just normal people, but there's a power hidden inside of them. And that's what the dragon is. They discover their power. They are the dragons, and they have a power to influence everything.
Awesome.
And so, it just happens that they find out that in their shadow life or whatever, the life that they kind of keep suppressed because they're human beings, they're dragons. And so they have a way of influencing the world when they embrace that power.
Oh, that's freaking cool.
So it's really fun.
Do they turn into dragons physically?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's all about kind of like string theory,
Okay.
So there's multiple iterations of everybody's life that we're living concurrently.
Okay.
And so, we'll be sitting here having this conversation now, but in another way, if I had taken a left turn instead of a right coming into your subdivision, I might be at a coffee shop having a conversation with somebody, or I might be stopping a bank robbery, or, so it's all these nifty little things. It's the decisions that we make cause all of these ripples. And so all of those things influence us.
Ooh, so much to think about.
Oh, yeah.
So many more layers than the stuff that I write about. I write about mother-in-laws and
oh, trust me, you got to have a dragon to deal with the mother-in-law. No, I'm kidding.
That's right. And for the record, I love my mother-in-law. Yes. I really, truly do.
And my mother-in-law and I now respect each other very much.
Yes.
It took a minute, but yeah.
Exactly. There's that growing period,
right.
Those growing pains. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what book did you say you're on with your series? Number
7.
Number 7.
Yeah, I'm writing number 7 right now. And this is going to be a fun one because the first 6, there's 11 in the series. So this is really the pivotal one.
Mm-hmm.
And in book 7, we go back, and without giving too much away, we go back to the origins of where some of the reasons that they've denied who they are in this lifetime, why they do that. And of course, this lifetime is concurrent with the one that they got these problems from. They started with these issues. So the idea is maybe they can fix them if they figure out where they started. So it's called Alphas. It's all about the origins.
Alphas. Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely going to have to start this series. I've never really been attracted to fantasy.
Yeah.
Just because I'm into, the human condition and seeing people more miserable than me, but maybe that would be a little bit lighter. Not so much tragedy.
Oh, there's tragedy. Yeah. There's definitely tragedy because, there's a lot of characters in this. There's 8 dragon sisters.
Okay.
And each one of them has a significant other who may or may not be their mate. And I call them their guardians, and they've been together lifetime after lifetime. And those are not dragons. So, their significant other, like my main character, Kara, whose name means face, which is why she's the face of the dragon. She was the very first one. Her significant other is a wolf. And if you go back through all the mythological stories throughout all the different cultures in the world, the twins were always guarded by the wolf when the mother became incapacitated or unavailable.
Okay.
So Rome was founded by twins whose mother was not available. And, Romulus and Remus were raised by a wolf. In Native American culture, there were twins and they were raised by wolves. So, it's interesting when you look, and that's why I like kind of pulling all the similarities of all the cultures around the world together. When you research all of this stuff, you're like, we're not so different after all.
Oh, yeah.
And we just happen to be dragons.
Excellent. Yeah. Dragons, Indian culture, Southern culture. I mean, it really is. It's just different iterations of, the same thing. We're all people.
Right.
Well, dragons.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Well, every culture throughout history has had 2 things in common. They all have dragon lore, and they all have pie.
They all have pie?
They all have pie.
I did not know that.
Yes. So I was like, I have to start putting pie in my books.
You definitely do.
Or having pie for, all of my launch parties or something.
Yeah. Excellent idea. Yeah. So what's on tap for you next? What are you working on now?
Currently, I'm about midway through Alphas. Like I said, that'll hopefully come out next year. And then I'm working on, this has been an almost 8-year process. I'm working on a memoir, and it's about halfway done, and it's beautiful. And it's amazing how I feel like I'm in that part of my life when I'm writing. And, if somebody interrupts me while I'm writing that part, it's jarring because I feel like I'm back in the past. It's interesting, but things that I hadn't remembered, that I'm writing down, and I'm writing the story, and then the next thing comes up and I'm like, oh, and I always tell my memoir students, when you write something, you'll remember the next thing, even if it's not right at the top of your mind. And sure enough, it's happening to me. So
yes.
Yeah, but it's been really fun. The story is, I had a horse from the time that she was born when I was 14, 15. Okay. She was born in 1980. So she was born when I was 14. And I got her when she was 3 months old. She came into my life, and my parents actually officially bought her for me less than a year later. So she was part of my life until she was in my life for 32 years.
Oh my goodness.
And she died in my arms. And she taught me so much because, being an outsider here, she was my common every day. This was my normalcy. And so I got to know people through my horse. I got to spend time with something where it didn't matter where on this planet I was. If we were together, it was normal. Right. And so she really saved me when we moved down here to Georgia. And when I lost her in 2012, it was heartbreaking. And my husband had always said, I've been around, when your parents divorced. I've been around when your grandmother passed away. I was very close to my grandmother. He said, when that horse goes, I want to be out of the country. And he had never, ever gone out of the country for business or anything else. No. He was in India when she passed away. And I had to put her down, and we would Skype every morning and night because of the time difference. And he said, are you sure you can't wait until I get home? And I said, I can't. Yeah. She's in pain. And so I put her down, and sure enough, it was a profound experience. I didn't think I could go through it. I would just deny that she was getting older all the time. She had an issue, I'd fix it,
Right.
But you can't fix old age. You can't fix when they're tired. You can't fix when they're ready to go. And so I promised her when she was taking her final breaths, I'm going to write your story, and everybody is going to know what a profound impact you had. And so I'm keeping my promise now.
Oh, I love that. That's so
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thanks.
I want to read it.
Thank you. Trust me. It's this time it's going to be finished, because I wasn't sure what to do with it for a while. And I was trying different formats. And then I just started writing it this summer. And I said, I took the month of July off from pretty much regular work. I'd finished all my camps in June, and I sat down and I said, this is the month I'm going to start this. And I kicked butt on it in July, and
Awesome.
it's got teeth now. When it hit 10,000 words, I announced that I was working on it, because at 10,000 words, I feel like it's at least got legs.
Yes.
And now it's got
real.
teeth, because it's over 20,000 words. So I feel like we're in good shape. Now that's not saying these are finished words. These are draft words. So
some of them are crap words on the page.
Yeah,
right?
just they're space holders, but it's getting me to tell the story.
Yeah.
So, but I feel really, really good about this one. And I feel like I'm fulfilling the promise to her, and it makes me feel really good about it.
Oh,
So,
that is wonderful.
thank you.
And I think that's a huge inspiration to anyone listening that is wanting to become a writer, because you exemplify that.
Thank you.
You're going through that whole process,
Oh, yeah.
and you're able to teach people that. And, you hit your stumbling blocks and you overcome it, and you get to it and get the job done.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up too, because people who are writers they look at the finished book and they think, I can do that. And then when it doesn't sound like that in the first draft of theirs, they give up. Well, gosh, how many pages have we hit delete or thrown away or burned in the burn barrel or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I know so many people that have got 2 and 3 books that are sitting in a drawer under a bed that will never see the light of day. But
exactly,
they did it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to remember, is that we're all writers. We all have a story in there. Whether we write it down or not, we all have stories. People, and to quote Doctor Who, we're all stories in the end.
Yes, Doctor Who, so wise. It's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
And so we have to remember that. And every day, whether we're writing it down or someone's taking note somewhere else, there's a writer lurking around there watching what you do. So watch what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's somebody listening to us right now and they are wanting to get started, maybe they don't live in Atlanta near you, what's a good way to find a writing coach or a workshop or certain books that would be good to order?
Independent bookstores.
Okay. Yes.
A lot of time, I am a huge advocate of independent bookstores. Foxtail has been a godsend to this small community in Georgia, in Woodstock.
Yeah, they're the reason that I finished my book, because I met my writing coach there at a workshop.
Perfect. Yeah. So, go to your independent bookstores, because they have book clubs, and a lot of times they'll have writing coaches or writing classes through those. Also, the local university. They don't just give you degrees, or you don't just pay for your degrees. A lot of times they have self-improvement, self-enrichment classes. I teach through the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, OLLI. It's called OLLI. And they have one at just about every university, at least one in every state. And so you can go to that. You have to be 50 and up to take those classes. But a lot of people, when they finally have the time to do it, that's when they find that.
Right.
But also there are writing classes and writing workshops that you can go to there, or through a publishing house, or there's so many different ways to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, reach out to an agent or an editor and see if they have somebody they recommend, because every community has somebody like me who's willing to say, okay, I'll meet you for an hour or two for coffee, and we'll go over the pages that you have and set you on the right path.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Because I think sometimes if you just get that one little push, you can just keep going.
Yeah. Now that is my job. So I charge for that. But, we can't do this for free. We love what we do, and we would do it for free, but we can't, because unfortunately the mortgage company doesn't allow us to live in our houses for free. So so please buy our books new from an independent bookstore. Yes.
And expect to pay someone for their writing, coaching, editing service.
Yeah.
It's just the way of the world.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is fantastic. I appreciate all this information and advice that you've given us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me today.
No, you're very welcome. And I wish you the best in the release of your memoir and your latest Lightbearers book, and probably the many dozens more books that you've got inside there.
Yeah, there's a lot. They're piling up.
I can tell.
It's almost as big as my to be read list, which is pretty bad.
Yeah. I can see that little glint in your eye when you talk about it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, Beth.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
If you like this podcast so far, please continue following along by tapping the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. If you really liked it, go on, be awesome, and leave a rating and a review. Find me on all social media too by searching Sheryl with an S, Parbhoo, that's Parbhoo. Thanks for listening to Southern Life Indian Wife.
Everyone has a baby they want to protect. Like
my dachshund, Rocky.
My 1959 hardtop convertible.
Or your baby could be an actual baby. From fire and flood detection, with home security you can trust, to safe driver alerts and apps you can use on the go, nobody has more ways to help keep all your babies safe. Because we are what we protect. ADT. Real protection. License information available at ADT.com.